They just can't get out of their way, Republicans, because they're stupid, because their plans are stupid, because they abide by whatever nonsense Donald Trump has fall out of his face at any given moment as policy. And all of the rhetoric you've heard about being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars and how we're trying to make things more efficient and we're trying to cut the bloat and the fraud, the waste, and the abuse in government, it's all lies. None of it they actually adhere to. None of it they hold true as a North Star or a guiding ideology. None of it. And the reason I know is because right now, there's so much bad press around the internment camp that's being set up in Guantanamo Bay, the place we've held terrorists for decades, that they're now going to send migrants to. And they're doing it in the most efficient way they can. A flight landed Tuesday of last week in Guantanamo, a C-130 cargo, a transport aircraft in the military, which is, if you don't know, wildly expensive to operate, especially when you're transporting 9 on a giant transport jet, 9 detainees. I'm going to read one paragraph from this right now before I get into the article in a more fulsome manner, but I want to demonstrate to you just how expensive and wasteful, verging on fraud that this is. All for the propaganda of it, all for the media win of it for Donald Trump. The Defense Department calculates the cost per flight hour to operate a C-130 at $20,756. So for a trip of 5 to 6 hours, it costs the Pentagon $207,000 to $250,000 round trip, or $23,000 to $27,000 per detainee. That's how much it's costing them. They could just fly them on a Delta jet. They could charter a jet and now have it be $27,000 per detainee. Why are they doing this in the first place? But if they're gonna do it, why are they doing it this way, in the most slapdick manner possible? Because they want the military involved. They want this to look like a military operation when it is not. Cruelty is the point, even if it costs us a bunch of money. Here's the headline from NBC News. This is an exclusive from them. Trump administration rethinking Guantanamo immigrant detention plan amid cost issues and power struggles. Trump still wants to use the base for detention, but a scaled down version is the likeliest outcome, sources said. So it's once again just another example of dozens and dozens of Donald Trump making a big splash with a lot of propaganda and a lot of media saying one thing and then quietly changing the plot and the plan as soon as it becomes too difficult. As soon as they realize their half-assed, non-planned bullshit was going to backfire. That's what's happening. They give MAGA the big psychic boost that this is taking place, we're building the wall, and then they don't build any wall. And then they don't use Gitmo in the way that they think they're going to use it, or the way they say they were going to use it, or the way that they ultimately end up using it. Now, these kinds of chaotic losses on the part of MAGA and Donald Trump's agenda are a good thing, because it means he's hurting fewer people, destroying fewer families. That's a good thing. But it is no way to run a government. It's no way to fire a bunch of safety individuals within the Federal Aviation Administration, people who work within aircraft control, and then, we need them back. There's no way to do it. They're doing the same thing with this operation. It's the same as they did with the nuclear regulatory employees that were monitored the safety of our storing of nuclear weapons, of storing of radioactive materials. They fired them en masse because they don't care. And then, oh shit, they were necessary. Apparently, federal government employees are important. They do serve a role. They do keep us safe. They're morons, though. Not the federal employees, the people firing the federal employees. President Trump's plan to use the U.S. naval base at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, to detain 30,000 immigrants has been hitting major legal, logistical, and financial hurdles ever since he surprised many in his own administration by announcing it. Now, as agencies spar over responsibility for operations there and over blame for what has gone wrong, there is a growing recognition within the administration that it was a political decision that is just not working. Among the major issues, especially as the Trump administration works to slash spending throughout the government, laughable, it's the cost. Taking detained immigrants to Guantanamo means flying them there, and the administration has sometimes chosen to use military planes that are expensive to operate. Here's that paragraph one more time for posterity's sake. On Tuesday of last week, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was on hand at Guantanamo when a military C-130 carrying 9 immigrants landed at the base. The Defense Department calculates the cost per flight hour to operate the C-130 at $20,756, so a trip of 5 to 6 hours. It cost the Pentagon $207,000 to $249,000 round trip, or $23,000 to $27,000 per detainee. Costs for those flights are lower when charter planes that Immigration and Customs Enforcement typically uses for deportation flights are employed in place of the military aircraft. But the administration has opted for military planes for reasons of optics. For propaganda is another word for that, according to a defense official. When charter planes are used, the operation is still a heavy logistical and financial lift, especially compared with keeping the detainees on the mainland. Each flight includes at least one ICE official for every migrant, often more, as well as a medical team. ICE estimates the average cost of one of its regular charter flights at $8,577 per hour, and the cost for special high-risk charter flights at roughly $7,000 to $27,000 per hour. But these figures include flight crew, security personnel, and onboard medical professionals, and all associated aviation handling and overflight fees, which the Defense Department estimates for the C-130 do not. And the space plan to hold these 30,000 immigrants is far from ready. Tents built for that purpose lack air conditioning and running water and do not meet ICE standards for detention, according to the defense official and an additional defense official. The 2 U.S. defense officials and a congressional official said views within the administration on how viable an option Guantanamo is for holding thousands of immigrants has shifted, though Trump still wants the plan to move forward because he doesn't really care at all. Donald Trump wants to be able to say it was a win, even if it is an abject, inarguable failure. A couple more sentences here in this paragraph. The official said it has become clear since Trump announced the Guantanamo plan that other options, including holding migrants at Fort Bliss, Texas, and other military bases in the United States, would be cheaper and more efficient. A scaled-down version of Trump's Guantanamo plan seems the likeliest outcome, officials said. So there's a whole bunch more to this article. I will link it below. Read every single word of it. You need to make yourself aware of exactly the kind of fascism that has come to the shores of the United States through democracy. They're using democracy to destroy democracy once again. And they're doing it under the guise of Doge and efficiency and fraud and waste and abuse. And it's all lies because they don't care about those things. What they care about is trying to create some kind of a weird white ethno-state here in the United States, getting rid of migrants and people who absolutely benefit and prop up our economy like no other group. Not to mention just that cruelty is the point, so destroying their lives, diminishing the flourishing of these people is just, I guess, a cherry on top for Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and these fascist types. What do you think? I'd love to know. You can call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me as always, daily@dollemore.com. We're going to keep following this. I hope you will too. I'll see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.